Good morning. Welcome to Hippocrates. We're going to do a little tour of the greenhouse. I'm going to start outside, show you how to do a setup of the planting. The planting includes sunflower, wheatgrass, pea greens, and buckwheat. So we're going to grow all those, but we have to plant them first. So I'm going to plant those in the soil. At the very end, I'll show you how to actually set up the trays to put the soil in the trays. But we're going to start by planting. And we're going to skip around on this, so you're going to see little clips here and there of different things, and you'll have to fast forward and rewind to get back to what you wanted to see. That's just the way I shoot things, what are you going to do? So, let's start off with planting wheatgrass. What are you doing, a little bonus footage? So, right now we're going to do some planting. Usually what we do is we set up the trays the night before. So all the soil is in the trays. Done at the end of the day. It's the last thing we do at the end of the day. We set up the trays for the next morning. So these are all set up. Now the soil, when you're getting into this business, the soil needs to be kept outside or in a different area. In other words, the health department doesn't want soil mixed in with products that's actually growing. So you have to kind of keep it away from where you're cutting the grass, where you're doing the planting could be done outside with the soil, but then you bring everything inside to grow or switch rooms. So everything's set up here now. We got a table big enough that holds 6 trays across, and there's 2 groups of trays. The reason there's 2 groups of trays is the sunflower requires a little bit more soil in the tray. So on the one side we have all trays that have a lot more soil in them, almost 3/4 of the way full, where the other side has just 1/4 of the way full of soil in the tray, because the wheatgrass, the pea greens, the buckwheat, they don't need a lot of soil. The sunflower is the only one you want to have more soil in the tray. So I'm going to do a little planting for you, and I have 2 utensils here. I have this was a spray bottle at one time. We just cut it off, and it acts as a rolling pin to spread the seeds around. And then we have a little tin cup, and this is actually, I'm going to try to give you an exact measurement of this. I don't know what it means, but it's 1 cup to the line, so it's about 8 ounces. And when we're planting wheatgrass, we use 2.5 cups. So basically 2 cups, and then we use it full, so that's 2.5 cups wheatgrass seed. So I have my 6 trays. I have my bucket of soaked and sprouted wheat, which I'll show you later of how we got it to here. Now I just pile 2 of the cups right in the trays. We're going to do 6 trays. And if you're timing me, it's man versus machine. Because you can have a machine try to do this, and it's almost going to be just as fast as you can do it by hand, depending who's doing your planting. It's been a little chilly here in Florida recently, so the seed doesn't have as much of a sprout as we usually like it to, but that's okay. So now we have the piles all in the tray. So we're going to start on one end. Just going to separate the seed. Then we're going to take our little magic rolling pin. With the cup, you can kind of spread the seed out so you're not burying it into the soil. You can kind of feel how hard you're pushing on it. So I'm being very gentle with the cup. It looks like a lot of seed, but it's not. And you don't have to be perfect with this. The seed's going to go where it wants to go. You're just breaking up the piles. You don't want too long of a tail when you sprout them first, because then you'll end up breaking off the tail and it'll have to grow back. So now that it's all planted, 6 trays, now we're going to water them. Very important part. Now we're going to use a spray nozzle, and we're going to set it to either flat or cone, or there's another one, flat Anyway, you'll see how it comes out. And as they get older, you get some seeds jammed in there, and it doesn't come out like I want it to. So I can switch. I can switch it to a cone. You can water such as, or you can switch it to a shower, and just don't go full throttle on it. I think the cone was my best option with this one. It's kind of older. Now you're never going to water too much. That's the important thing. You're never going to overwater, but you want to make sure you water it really heavy right now. You want to make sure that soil gets wet. Once they're all watered, we're going to put them in a wheelbarrow and then bring them into the greenhouse, and then we'll show you what happens next. But I'm going to plant some other things before we go into the greenhouse. So we have the wheatgrass, we stack them on top of each other, bring them into the greenhouse, separate them on the shelves. We'll show you that in a bit. But right now I'm going to also plant some peas, some buckwheat, and then some sunflower for you. Pause for intentional purposes. Some peas and some buckwheat. We're using the same side of the tray setup, the one that doesn't have a lot of soil in it, to do the peas and the buckwheat. When I just did that batch of wheat seed, I noticed that the soil was kind of dry. So what you can always do first, and it gives you a nice firm mat to spread your seeds around, make it a little bit easier for you so that the soil doesn't kind of pull up, is wet the soil first. Just really quick. And this way it'll stay down, it'll stay matted down, it won't mix up in with the seed. Now with wheat seed, it was 2 full cups. It was 2 full of these cups. Actually 2.5 cups if you're measuring, but it was 2 full of these little tin cups. With pea is the same thing, it's going to be 2 full ones, and with buckwheat, it's 1 heavy one. Same thing with sunflower, it's 1 heavy one. Now what that weighs out to, with wheat and with pea and with buckwheat, it's about 1 pound of seed per large tray. The trays that we're using are square 17-inch by 17-inch. Actually 17 3/4 if you want to be technical. So now I'm going to use peas. The peas that we're using are the snow peas, also called speckled peas. If you're a little short, you can add some from the other trays. On that last tray, make sure I get 6. Stealing from other trays. So the snow peas grow a little bit taller, that's why we use those rather than the whole green peas. And we're doing the same thing, we're spreading them around. And then we're going to use the little plastic cup. They'll push themselves off, they're going to go where they want to go. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not editing this, so you're getting this in live time, so you see how long it actually takes. Sometimes you get employees out here, they're lollygaggling, they're just talking to each other, they're on the cell phone, and you realize it's taking them 2 hours to plant. It shouldn't take 2 hours to plant. Now, as we did with the wheat, we're going to water. hose that I just used is that flat hose. We're going to talk about that. You're going to see it all over the place. It weighs nothing, so it's really important to have that flat hose. It never kinks, and it comes out just as fast as any other hose. That's the kind of nice thing about it. About $25. I had to find them, used to find them at Home Depot, then I had to go online to get them. Flat hose. Okay, so now the peas are all planted, they're watered. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to bundle them up, bring them into the greenhouse. Then we're going to plant some sunflower and 1 tray of buckwheat. We'll stay on this side for now and do the buckwheat. Are you off? Challenging, you know, working with new people, you don't know when they're on, when they're off, so it's hard to say. So right now we're going to do a buckwheat tray. We don't plant as much buckwheat as we do with sunflower and we do with wheatgrass because buckwheat, we're not juicing it, doesn't really juice well. It's a great sprout, the buckwheat green, but it doesn't hold up, it doesn't last after you cut it in the kitchen and put it in the refrigerator, so we're only going to do 1 or 2 trays of that. Here we're only going to do 1 tray. Buckwheat has to have the shell on it. It's not the hulled buckwheat or buckwheat groats, it's the buckwheat with the shell on it, so it's called whole buckwheat. Planted, it's watered, done. Now we're going to pause, and I'm going to switch sides. Now we're on the side of sunflower. Don't forget the sunflower has a little bit more soil in the tray. I'm going to wet the tray first. Wet that soil. Sunflower seed, we're using the small black or the black oil. That's kind of an important thing. Not the big white striped one or the gray ones. If that's all you have, obviously it'll work. The black oil sunflower is the bird seed. Bird seed works well. It's the closest to organic you're going to find, with less pesticide sprayed on them because obviously people are touching them, so they have to be somewhat safe. But if you can find a good organic black oil sunflower, obviously we encourage you to use it. Now sunflower, it's a lot less seed per tray. So sunflower you're going to use for the large trays about 3/4 pounds, which is about 1.5 cups. These have been soaked. They didn't sprout too well because again it's been kind of cold. You can always plant them earlier than later. Better to plant them sooner than later. The trays that we're using are these 17 by 17. If you ever see roots stuck in the tray, it's usually with the sunflower, because sunflower you have to be careful how much you water. So if you don't water a lot, the roots end up drying up and they get stuck in the trays. So that's why we clean our trays after each use. You'll usually never see this with wheatgrass or peas or buckwheat, usually only with sunflower, because you can't water sunflower too heavy. We're going to talk about that. But always clean your trays after each use. That's why we have some big tubs set up on the outside. We're going to show you that in a second. Got my sunflower seeds. Again, it's a lot less seed per tray. They're also a bigger seed. Now the 3/4 pound of sunflower seed that we're using is going to yield almost 4 pounds of actual sunflower greens. So the turnaround is pretty heavy with sunflower. With wheatgrass, the 1 pound of seed of wheatgrass, with 1 pound of seed of wheatgrass, you're going to get about 2 pounds of actual grass. Those numbers are important if you're getting into this business. Sunflower planted. The first time you water sunflower, obviously again you can still water it heavy, you're not going to hurt anything. But after this first time is when you have to be really careful how much you water. And we'll show you this when we get inside, but if you ever get little brown spots on the leaves of sunflower, it's because of water. You're usually watering too much. It's going to happen. You know, there's not much you can do about it, but just be aware if you ever get brown spots, it's usually in the winter time, and it's usually because of heavy water. You watered way too much, and you water too much in the beginning stages. Those first 5 days are really important. We're going to pause now because we have a blower coming by. Okay, now we're gonna. It looks like you got some bonus footage. You're lucky. I didn't require that shooting, but hey, extra stuff. This is a little different because we're gonna do just 3 of the heavy trays for the sunflower, and we're gonna do 3 of the lighter trays for the wheatgrass, peas, and buckwheat. So I'm gonna do them all. Normally we would do all 6 the same because one side is sunflower, one side is the peas, wheatgrass, and buckwheat. First of all, we got our empty trays that we cleaned and we dried out. Okay, we cleaned them in a big 100-gallon Rubbermaid tub. We have a little brush. We're going to show you that. Then we got our empty trays. We set up 6 of them, or your table's big enough to hold 5, 6, whatever it holds, 4. The bigger the table, the faster the job goes, the easier it is. So we got 6 of them all ready to go. We're going to take basically an ice scoop you can get at restaurant supply stores. They have small ones, they have big ones, depending what size you get. If I'm using a small one, sunflower, I'm going to use 2 scoops. 2 scoops, remember that? Raisin Bran, 2 scoops, nothing. Soil, we're using an organic vegetative compost that we purchase by the yard, and we buy 20 yards at a time of the soil. Big truck comes in, dumps it over on the side, so we keep the soil outside, we keep the setup outside. Now if I'm doing the trays for the wheatgrass, I'm using just 1 scoop. So I got 3 with 2 scoops, 3 with 1 scoop for the wheatgrass. And here's how easy it is to do the setup. You're going to take your clumps. You can wear gloves if you'd like to wear gloves. Other than that, it brings you back to earth when you touch the soil. Kind of an important part. Little wood chips, wood sticks, whatever you can leave in there. You don't have to try to take them out. Leaves, dead leaves, whatever you find in your soil. Basically just break up the big pieces. So those are the 3 for the sunflower. And they don't look perfect yet, but I'll show you how to make them good. Wheatgrass, we're using a lot less. Don't need a lot. Now, make them even. Got another tray, putting right on top. There you go, done. If you pat it a little bit, all the soil goes to where it needs to go, and it makes it nice and level. Now I'm doing one tray on each to pat them down, but normally you would just do the next row of 6 right on top of it, so you wouldn't have to just keep picking up the tray and moving it. But I made a nice firm mat now, and I made it nice and level, and it's nice and even. That's all you had to do. So now my setup is done. Normally I would do that 6 times or 8 times to go high, depending on how many you do every morning. This way it's done. The reason we do the setup in the evening, the last thing at the end of the day, because just in case I don't have time, it's no big deal if this didn't get done. So that's why we do it the last time, at the end of the day. For some reason, if you didn't have time to do it, you can always do it the next morning. It's nice to have it all ready though. The next day you come in, you don't have to worry about doing it. Okay, I'm going to show you just real quick how to clean the trays. So we're pausing for a second. We got to move the camera. Hi, welcome back. 100-gallon Rubbermaid tubs, troughs. These are agricultural products from Rubbermaid. Not really sure. They cost about $70 or so to buy them. You only need them once. They last forever. They have a little drain in them so you can open them and clean them once a week. That's important, cleaning them out once a week too. Make sure that water stays somewhat fresh. And I kind of put it up on cement blocks so that it's easier. You're not bending over and slouching in them. Eat better for your back, better for your employees. You do want to clean the trays after each use, so we let them soak in the tub for, I don't know, about an hour or so before we start cleaning them. And we'll take our little brush, clean around the tray, just really quick in the middle. If you see the roots, get the roots off, turn it upside down. And then we just turn it upside down on a table and we rotate them so that they don't stack, and we just let them dry out all day. And then they're ready to use the next morning. It's about as fast and as easy it is to clean a tray. This is kind of an important process to make sure you clean the bottom too, because they stack on top of each other, and if there's any kind of mold or something that's stuck to the bottom, it's going to end up contaminating the tray underneath it when you stack them. So clean underneath the tray too, just as important. There's an enzyme you can put into the water called Pool Perfect, and you can get it at pool supply stores, swimming pool supply stores. Pool Perfect is maybe about a cap full, just one cap full in a 100-gallon tub, and you let them soak for about 30 minutes to an hour, and that will pulverize, that will eat the bacteria in the tray. Kind of a healthier way to do it instead of putting bleach or anything like that in the water. Health department might demand you to put bleach in the water. Those are rules that you just have to follow. You're not going to hurt anything if you did clean the trays with bleach, by the way, because you're going to let them dry out. You're going to clean. You can rinse them after you did the bleach anyway. So bleach in the water to clean the trays, totally fine. You're going to put soil in the tray anyway, and again, you're soaking it, you're rinsing them off, you're cleaning them, and then you're letting them dry. So that's okay. A little brush you got at the Home Depot. You can use anything you want, whatever's convenient, whatever your employees like to use. So that's going to take probably 15 minutes a day to clean all the trays that you used each day. Okay, we're done. Outside we have the draining of the seeds, so we soak them on the inside of the greenhouse, and then in the morning we come up and we drain them on the outside of the greenhouse. You want to make sure that you're not leaving the seed outside all night, because every animal and their parents and their kids will come eat your seeds, raccoons being the biggest one depending where you live. But you're looking at ducks and birds and squirrels, and everybody will eat the seed. Once it's been soaked, it's very tasty. Okay, so you want to make sure you keep them out, keep them outside during the day when you're around, not at nighttime. Now once you're finished with a bucket, so if I had this bucket that was full of wheat seed, once I'm finished with it, I want to make sure that I get all the seeds out of there. You don't leave the seeds sitting in there, and you don't dump them on the ground, because you dump them on the ground, then you're going to have your animals coming back. So make sure you dump them either in the tray, clean out the bucket, put the bucket in the 100-gallon agricultural Rubbermaid tub to make sure you clean them. Same thing, brush the bottom, brush the outside, but there are still holes in the bottom, if you can see those. There's still holes in the bottom. The poles are for drainage, so we can put a whole tub of wheat seed. So each 5-gallon bucket holds about 15 pounds of seed in a 5-gallon bucket. So it's going to do 15 trays of wheat in one 5-gallon bucket. And it's got the holes in the bottom. You can put it inside of another bucket without holes and then pull it out. It drains on its own. And then as it's sitting out in these sinks you got at Home Depot, you can rinse them off very simply. And that's how you have to do it. After you drain the water off, you want to rinse them at least twice a day just to kind of clean them off so they don't get nice and hot down there, especially in the summer months. Give them a good rinse off. And they're going to sit there and drain. Buckwheat I didn't use as much, so I used a smaller bucket. And the same thing with the peas, with the sunflower. Clean out the buckets, but don't put the seeds on the ground unless you're sure you don't have animals, or if you have a garden, you can put them there too. Just going to do a close-up of the seeds. Sunflower and wheat seed. This is sunflower. And there you go. Alright, go anyway. So after we cut the wheatgrass, it then goes into a compost pile, all the little mats. It's important when you put them out in the compost pile to turn them upside down so the roots are facing up. Otherwise the grass just keeps growing, which is fine too. There's nothing wrong with that, but it won't decompose as fast. So we have them in the wheelbarrow after they've been cut. It gets kind of heavy in the wheelbarrow, so depending on obviously how strong you are, to move them out to your compost bin. Compost bin should also be outside, preferably a cement floor in the compost bin. So it's easier to till them, to rotate them. They don't root into the soil that way. Of course, it doesn't have to have a cement floor. And then the cement surrounding of your compost, maybe 3 sides and a big door in the front. So once you have your wheatgrass mats, see the wheatgrass has already been cut. A big thick root mat and a little bit of soil in there. Makes great compost. Again, you can turn them upside down, place them around your trees on the outside, set them in a row. in your compost bin. Start on one side and work your way around. About 3 months, they'll decompose. You can start using that soil again. The wheatgrass mats you'd keep in someplace different. You don't want to put the sunflower compost mats with the wheatgrass mats, because of the sunflower and the buckwheat have the shells, and the shells don't decompose as fast. So you want to keep your wheatgrass root mats away from your sunflower and buckwheat mats when you're doing composting. Those shells just aren't going to break down as fast. They're still good. They're still good to use around the trees, use for your garden, but they're going to have all those little shells in them. Compost is a good thing to sell as well. Sometimes, maybe if you're not really into composting, you're not sure if it's going to be good for growing wheatgrass in it next time. Maybe it's too acid-based. The wheatgrass likes more alkaline-based compost. So in that case, you probably sell your compost, because the acid compost will work in a lot of the gardens. It will work for fruits and vegetables. Just won't work too well for the wheatgrass and the sunflower. So sometimes you got to think about that. If you want to reuse your compost, maybe bag it up and sell it. Another good way to make some income for your business. Ta-da! Okay, now we're inside the greenhouse, place you've always longed to be, because this is where the oxygen is. So take a deep breath. Count to 3 on the inhale, 3 on the exhale, get that oxygen. Encourage people to grow wheatgrass, obviously for the oxygen alone, growing in their home. The world goes to where it's going, who knows? Now you have some greens. You can always stay alive if there's green. Remember the movie WALL-E? Was about just finding one green on the planet Earth, and then we can all come back and try it all over again and see if we don't screw it up this time. All right, enough of the philosophical stuff. So now we're going to cut a tray of wheatgrass. Got my tray of wheatgrass. For those of you in the business end of this, you can cut it like you're cutting hair. Cut it down low, then take that wheatgrass, kind of flatten it out so it looks nice and even. If you see maybe a little brown spot, take the knife, cut that off. You can also use the knife and cut that straight so it looks really nice, and you put it in your bag. And you package up a pound of wheatgrass. Now the bags are about 12 inches by 12 inches square. You never know how tall your wheatgrass is going to be. It could be 7 inches, could be 8, could be 5, but the bag's 12, just to make sure you don't bend the tips when you put it in the package. Don't want to bend the tips of the wheatgrass because you'll kill it. So you want to make sure those tips stay straight. The bottoms of the wheatgrass, you're always going to see a little bit of white. That's because you're cutting as low as you can, as close to the seed. That's important. So you're going to see some white down at the bottom. You might also see a little bit of yellow. Yellow is just because on the inside of the trays, because you planted it nice and thick, it doesn't get as much light. A little bit of yellow is not going to hurt anything. And the white is essentials. White has the lecithin. A lot of essential minerals are down really low when you're cutting the wheatgrass. And I try to explain to people that when you're juicing a green, you're getting tenfold the amount of chlorophyll than if you actually chewed it. The bottom line, most human beings don't chew their food enough. We're going to talk about that over and over again. But most human beings aren't chewing their greens enough. And when they're eating a leafy green, they're not going to get that chlorophyll amount by as fast as we eat it. We're going to swallow it. If they actually juice that green, they're going to get tenfold the amount of chlorophyll from that green. That's that chewing action. So if there's a little bit of yellow, you never have to worry about that. There's still nutrient in the grass itself. It's just lacking a little bit of chlorophyll. They can spend a week on a raw food diet eating a salad every day, and they're not going to get the amount of chlorophyll they will in juicing just one time that amount of leafy green. So that's the kind of concept. If you can encourage people to chew their food, chew that green to literally it's not green anymore, and you can kind of take the leaf out of your mouth and see that you've taken all the green out. That's kind of what you want to do. Leave it in your mouth for an hour and chew it and chew it and chew it. You've gotten the green content. So your packaging, you have a little scale by your table, weigh it out. This is where you do want to encourage your employees to wear gloves, wash their hands, hair nets, those kind of things for safety, for health department laws. Okay, you can now cut the entire tray like that. Keep your knives sharp. We're going to go through that in a little bit. I'll show you the way I sharpen them. Tamping them down just gives you a nice kind of straight, flat bottom. And you fill it up to where it's a pound's worth. And there you go. Now with sunflower, there's just a little trick to it. kind of jumping ahead. I didn't show you how it got to this point, but we'll get there. You'll see some of the little black shells still on it. If someone's using the sunflower for a juice, it's okay if some of the shells are still on the leaves. If you're using it for your salads, you want to make sure those leaves fall off. So you catch it kind of early in the morning when it's still wet, it's still dewy, and you can rub your hand across it, and the shells should slide right off the leaves. You can do it at an earlier stage, okay, around day 7 before it gets green and adult, and the shells should still slide right off the leaves. Sunflower, you're kind of doing the same thing, just like you cut the wheatgrass, except with sunflower, you're going to make sure you try to clean those shells off. So I'm going to grab the very top of the sunflower, hold it over a wheelbarrow, and give it a little shake so I got all the shells out of the stems. Then I'm going to do the opposite, grab the top, give it a little shake, and I have no more black shells. They're all gone. Then I'm going to do the same thing, package it in a little bag, just like I did with the wheatgrass. Do another little run for you. Get some of the roots, make sure you snip those right off. Hold the tops. Give it a shake, hold the bottoms. Give it a shake. All the shells are off. I got one little kind of rotten one there, just pick that out. Now it's clean. This is servable for your buffets. You can see you got all the little shells out of there. And you got a nice tall sunflower, made it easier to cut for me. Now, what you always want to do is cut so that you have enough for a couple days worth. Okay, so your refrigerator, temperature of your refrigerator should be set around 36 to 38 degrees. Anywhere from 34 to 38 is fine, so 36 is ideal, as cold as your refrigerator should be. Your sprouts, your wheatgrass are going to last a lot longer in a temperature like that. Almost 3 weeks if it's that cold, so it'll last a lot longer. So what we do is we put them in these tubs, and when we put the sprouts in the tubs, we can put them in the refrigerators, we can put them in a walk-in cooler. Walk-in cooler is ideal to have. And we store them a lot longer, so we store them a couple days in advance. This way, if we ever need a large quantity of sprouts, I can just go in the refrigerator. I know I have a few days worth in advance. You never want to run out. Obviously, it puts a bad impression of you out there. Your business, people aren't going to count on you. They're not going to trust you. They're going to go somewhere else if someone else can do it. So you never want to run out. That's a bad sign of running out. So what I do is I always cut them. I have them a whole tub of beautiful, clean sunflower, always ready. In case I need to package it up, I need a couple pounds here and there, I can just walk in the cooler, grab it, and package it separately. So you don't have to do all the 1 pound packaging all at once, which is ideal if you could, if you have the time, if you got the employees to do that. But you can always have a tub in there just in case you need some extra, or you want to make a juice for somebody. Okay, so that was wheatgrass we cut sunflower. Now we're going to cut some buckwheat. Again, buckwheat's probably the last one you're going to grow, only because it doesn't store, you're not going to juice it. You don't get the same quality of juice. In other words, when you try to juice buckwheat, it's going to come out kind of like flax does, that kind of gelatinous look. So we don't juice buckwheat. This tray still has another day or two to go, so I'm just going to cut on the side just to kind of show you. Buckwheat has a lot of shells in it, so we have to do the same thing we did with sunflower. We have to grab the top, give it a good shake, make sure we get those shells out, and then we grab the bottom, give it a good shake, and then we're still going to have to pick off some. That's why this tray needs another day, because all those shells should have already come off the leaves. The leaves should open up and pop the shells off themselves. You should never have to really pick these out. And there's a lot of them in there. That's another reason to do buckwheat last. So we still end up with a lot of shells in it. And with buckwheat, you're only going to eat it, so you want to make sure you clean off all those shells. The lighter you plant buckwheat, the less problem you're going to have. We planted this tray very thick. So hence you see all the shells are all still stuck to the leaves. They're not coming off as much. But planted a little bit thinner, you'll get the leaves off a lot better. And then we'll do a little bit of pea. I'm going to spend time on buckwheat because it's something that I'm probably not going to do too much of. Okay, pause for a second, then we'll get some pea. With pea seed and pea greens, ideally this tray could still go another day if I'm using it for juice, just to get a little bit taller. But this is about the stage you want to cut it. It's been about 7 or 8 days if you want to eat it, because it's going to be a lot sweeter if you cut it sooner. Pea, you don't really have to clean anything off. Very seldom is a seed going to be stuck. There's no shells with pea. It's a lot cleaner of a sprout. It's a tasty sprout. It's a sweeter tasting sprout. You can juice it. Proteins, sunflower, pea greens are complete proteins. Nice source of lecithin in the stems. For me, the pea green is kind of, in the sunflower, are dessert sprouts, and they're that kind of sweet taste to them. If your peas taste stringy, they're a little bit longer, they're older, you want to cut them sooner rather than later if they taste a little bit stringy. You want the peas to be kind of sweet and not as chewy, so that's when you cut them a little bit younger. And you can always cut everything a little bit younger rather than later. It's better to cut them sooner than later. So peas, very easy, simple to do. 1 pound of pea seed should yield close to 2 pounds of pea green. Sunflower, again, about 3/4 of a pound of seed is going to yield close to 4 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds of sunflower green. 1 pound of wheat seed is going to yield 2 pounds of wheat grass. Buckwheat we don't really sell. It's going to be a hard one to convince anybody anyway of buckwheat because it's so perishable. So we're done with sunflower. Now sunflower is ready to cut. And I'm probably you're going to see pictures of this and I'm going to show you, but you'll see a second set of leaves kind of shooting out in the middle there. And that's the jointing stage for sunflower. When you can see that second growth of leaves right in the middle there starting to shoot out, it's time to cut the sunflower. Okay, wheatgrass joints at the bottom. And when wheatgrass splits, let's see if I can find one for you, it's time to cut it. Now, with sunflower and wheatgrass, they all don't need to be split. You just look for a couple of them starting to joint, and then you know it's ready to cut. So let me just separate this, but this is what the wheatgrass will do. You'll have your little shoot, the lecithin, the white, and then you'll see your first blade of grass, and then that second blade coming right out from the bottom. That's that jointing stage of of wheatgrass. Sunflower joints at the top, wheatgrass joints at the bottom. There's no set jointing for the pea greens or the buckwheat. Buckwheat, they're gonna pop all the shells off, and pea greens, you want them just a little bit shorter if you want to eat them, a little bit taller if you can juice them. Okay, then we're gonna walk around the greenhouse, so we're gonna take a minute and set up the rest. Okay, I'm just going to show you real quick the refrigerators that we use here in the greenhouse. And this is a glass door refrigerator, and we open it up, and there's our tubs full of sunflower. We have tubs that go to our juice bar, and we have tubs that go to our kitchen. And obviously the sunflower that's in the kitchen tub is cut a little bit differently. It's a little bit cleaner. The ones we put in the juice bar, it's okay if it has some shells on it. But we're already cut for tomorrow for the sunflower. And then in our refrigerators, we do the same thing but with wheatgrass. So we have all the tubs lined up, and they have the same color lid on them. This way we know what day it is. It's all the same day by the color purple of the lid. So this is all going to be used today. And we use an average of about 6 tubs. Each tub has about 10 pounds of wheatgrass in it. So it's 5 trays of wheatgrass in each tub. And then this is refrigerator 1, that's where they take from. Refrigerator 2, refrigerator 3 are the next days in concession. But you open them up, and there's your wheatgrass, all white one day, and then we have all green the next day. So we're already 3 days in advance. So we never run out of wheatgrass. And if we ever need it, because sometimes we have 80 people in a week, sometimes we have 70 people, sometimes 40 people, or sometimes 100 people. Well, I can't all of a sudden have that much wheatgrass ready, so one week they're using 6 tubs a day, the next week they're using 5 tubs a day, next week they're using 8 tubs a day. Well, it cuts just into my backup, and then we're always having enough, so we do the same thing every day. You can see the refrigerator temperature, try to keep it just under 40, 36, 38. The 4 seeds that we're growing in the soil, we're growing wheatgrass seeds, sunflower, small black or black oil, the peas, which are snow peas or speckled peas. You kind of see that little speckle on them. And then there's the whole buckwheat with the shell on them. So those are the 4 seeds that we grow in the soil. And now we're going to take you through the growth of them. Okay, we're back in the greenhouse. I wanted to make sure you see the racks that we're using, same racks that everybody uses pretty much. The shelves are alternated. These are only 2 deep. And each side of the rack holds 32 trays. So it's an entire day. That's a whole day's planting on one side of the rack, and it's another day's planting on the other side of the rack. So we don't have to move everything around, it stays right where it is, and it's a whole day's worth on each side, so nobody gets confused. You don't mix up the sides, don't mix up the days, it gets kind of confusing. You have to try to find what the oldest and the youngest. And then we set up the stages so I can show you the close-ups of sunflower, of pea, and of wheatgrass, all the different stages until it gets to the final. So let's walk through wheatgrass. Day 1, it's covered by an empty tray. It's watered heavy in the morning and it's mist in the evening. So it's uncovered and sprayed in the evening, but there's an empty tray on top of it. Now here we stack 2 trays on top of each other, and it kind of saves on having to switch covers all the time. So we got 2 trays on top of each other, and then we rotate. This one goes on the bottom, and this one will go on the top, and we uncover them in the morning to water them heavy, and then cover them back up. And then this is day 2. You can see it's starting to get a little tail on it. It has 2 roots that come out, always. There's 2 roots that shoot out, and then 1 stem. So that's day 2, stays covered, 1, 2, and then the 3rd day, again, it's a heavy tray on top, and then the empty tray on top of that. That just cuts down on space and cuts down on covers. As you can see now, it's starting to grow a little bit more. At this point, some people say there's mold on the tray when they see a little bit of white fuzz, but it's actually the hairs of the roots, it's not mold. But it stays covered, so water heavy once in the morning, and then mist it and uncover just to mist it in the evening. And you can just kind of lift it up and shoot the mist down there. The 4th day, it's uncovered. You got the roots that are now in the soil, and this is only day 4. And now it's all pretty much grown, nice and even. Day 5, we're not covering it anymore. All we're doing is water once a day heavy. And we're just watching it grow. Day 6, you can see it's getting a little taller now. Day 7. And I just want to show you how high it's getting. Day 8, where it's pretty much ready now. And then day 9 is the one we just cut. Just showed you we cut that one. You can also do it in these little 10 by 10 trays the same way. There's a lot of soil in that tray, you never need that much. But this is just a little mini tray, a little 10 by 10 tray, rather than the big ones. And that's just an option for people that have smaller areas to grow it in. Sunflower, it starts off with a weight tray on top of it. So there's a heavy tray on top of this. This is what we just planted outside. And then there's a heavy tray. So a tray with some soil in it is on top of that one. And you could do this too high again with the weighted tray on top. So that's almost a full tray of soil on top of it. Make sure this soil doesn't get too wet on the top of it. That's where you start to get the brown spots. If this cover gets too heavy or too wet, not too heavy, but too wet. So now we got day 2. You can see them starting to grow now. Day 3, still with the weighted tray on top of it. And day 4, still with the weighted tray. So it's not going to come off until the 5th day. But you can see there's no problem. They're starting to push up. They're growing on their own. So we did 5 days with the weight, and then we just uncovered them now on the 5th day. Sometimes it's the morning of the 6th day. It just really depends. But as soon as they start pushing up to the point where they're going to push that tray off, so it's right on the lip, that's when you can take off that cover. And then you turn a tray upside down on top of it. So once you uncovered it with the soil, then you're putting an upside down tray on top of it to keep it dark for 2 more days. So even then, covered tray on top of it, that's going to get a cover upside down, and then this one has the cover upside down. And you can see they're really yellow at this point, but that's okay because they haven't gotten the sun yet. It's going to take about an hour and they were all green up. It doesn't take long for them to green up. And at this point, day 5, 6, 7, when you uncover them, you can rub your hand across the top now, and those shells will start to come off the leaves as long as they're nice and wet. And a lot more of the shells are coming right off. So I didn't rub the back. So day 7 or 8 is when you can rub your hand across to get those shells off. I think we missed a day here. And then so now we're going to do it again. Just every morning when you come in, when it's still dewy or right after you water, just rub your hand across the top. And they're starting to get really full now. Nice tray of sunflower there. And you can see the roots. Oh, it's kind of stuck, but that's okay if it's a little stuck, because that means that you watered it or you didn't water it too much. You can see it just kind of got stuck on the ends. It dried out a little bit faster. But it's still a healthy tray of sunflower, and you're going to get at least 4 pounds out of this tray. Pea greens, same thing, covered with the empty tray for the 3 days. And then uncovered, just about like when wheatgrass gets uncovered, when it just starts to root into the soil. Starting to get a little bigger. You don't really want to lift it out because it'll fall apart. And this is the one we cut just now. And that's your pea green. Pea green will kind of split, but this has another day or so before we really want to cut it and juice it. Cut it earlier to get that sweet taste. I ran out of shelf space, so we created kind of a different shelf for the sunflower. And it's okay, the sunflower doesn't need as much light as the pea greens or the buckwheat. They can use a little bit more light. Interesting thing about this greenhouse, there's a cement floor, but there's no drains in the floor. So we do have to use a shop vac, and we vacuum up the water once a day. You do want to make sure you have drains in the floor. And there is full spectrum lighting, 8-foot bulbs up on the top. This is sunflower. It's covered with the weight. It's uncovered once a day, watered heavy, and then covered again. You don't have to miss the sunflower. You do want to miss the wheatgrass, the buckwheat, and the peas, but sunflower you just keep with the weighted tray on top of them for almost 5 days. And then it goes upside down for 2 more days. Make them grow tall. It fakes them out, makes them think that they're still underground. So they grow tall looking for the light, so you don't get little tiny mini sunflowers. Again, lights at the top on each side. Alright, let's do the small sprouts, then we're done in here. And we have the setup of the little sprouts, which is your mungs, lentils, adzukis, fenugreek, garbanzos, red and green lentils, and then your clover, garlic, onion, radish, broccoli, alfalfa. So we start them out, we soak them one pitcher inside of another pitcher. You can see there's the fenugreek, you got mungs, adzukis, and your lentils. But they're all pitcher inside of a pitcher, so they're full of water inside there. And then, same thing with the little ones, pitcher inside of a pitcher, alfalfa, clover, broccoli. And then we take them out of the pitcher and bring them over by the sink, and they can just hang right there. If you got certain pitchers that have the little arms like that, they hang right on the side, and you can just drain them off. And we do this 3 times a day. Make sure they mix around. The water is just draining right out of the bottom. There's holes in the bottom of them. Even the other pitchers without holes. And then it goes another day, and you start to see little sprouts on them, little tails. The key is just soaking. Once they've soaked, you're fine. You start to get little tails on them. They're ready to eat. There's no set length that the tail has to be. And then we just let them sit there for a few seconds as they drip, and then we set them right back up on the rack. Mung beans grow very quick. Adzukis grow a little bit slower, but it's an average of about 2 days they take to sprout. Here's your green lentils, and your red lentils, and fenugreek, and they're all ready. Put them in a refrigerator. And you have your little sprouts. So here's clover. And then we have radish. And we make sure that sits in there for about 3 days. And when we rinse it, we shake it up. Make sure the bottom moves around to the top. And broccoli stays in there for about 3 days. We rinse it 3 times a day. And then it'll get spread out on our little sheets. This was spread out today. And it's on those little nylon sheets. But you can see they have little tails on them. And then the clover was spread out today. And your radish was spread out today. So see how long it is before we spread it out. And now I have them on the sheets. I have them on those little nylon sheets, and they're also on the little refrigerator shelving unit, just to keep them out of the water. I want to make sure that they don't puddle in water. That's the important thing as they're growing. So this is day 4 of those. And then they start to grow really quick. You can see the radish. You get day 5, day 6, day 7. See the root hairs, that's not mold. That's the hairs of the roots. And as they start to get old enough now, we'll just take them right off, and these are edible, or just as is. You can rinse them to try to get those little skins off, but you don't have to take those skins off. You can eat those. And then your clover does the same kind of thing, and broccoli. There's the broccoli. And when broccoli's ready, again, comes right off, rinse it off, ready to eat, store it in the refrigerator. Don't store it in the refrigerator wet. Broccoli again. So you can do it in the sheets, and then we have clover, of course. Do it on those little nylon sheets. There's a lot of ways you can sprout those. Health department make you tumble them. There's tumblers you can buy for those. But that's kind of how we lay them out here on the racks. Start them in the pitchers, rinse them in the sinks, and then set them up on the racks. The adzukis, mungs, lentils, fenugreeks, garbanzos, they're just sprouted and eaten and stored in the refrigerator. You don't need to spread those out and green those up. The greening ones would be the group B sprouts that we talked about. Everything in group B, which is the alfalfa, broccoli, clover, radish, garlic, onion, mustard, even chia. You can even do chia seed this way. And that's the tour of the Hippocrates greenhouse. We do have speakers set up, I don't know if you can see that. And we can play some classical music. And there you go. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for coming by. Have a great day. I wanted to make sure I take you through the watering part. When we're watering a section, I kind of start on the bottom and then move around to the next one. And always do it until it drips. When you see the tray drip, you've watered it enough. But water the back, water the front. These have already been watered today, that's why they're dripping very quick. Normally it would take a couple seconds each tray, and then work your way up and move over the other way. So you kind of start at the bottom, go one way, move up, go the other way. I'm using a shower, I'm using that flat hose which weighs nothing in my hand. It's not heavy at all to do it this way. Watering's really important. Make sure you water the front and the back of every tray. Mister systems don't work, sprinkler systems don't work, because when they go on and the tray is young, it'll get the whole tray, but as the tray grows, it blocks the sprinkler from hitting certain parts of the tray. So Mister systems aren't going to work as well. You want to make sure you hand water. When you do sunflower, sunflower needs a lot less water, especially in the winter months. Winter months is when people see those brown spots. Okay, you use a lot less water. So sunflower, you're really just going to give a quick shot of water. That's about as much as you got to water the sunflower. We used a lot more soil as well. Okay, so just a quick shot for sunflower. As the sunflower starts to get old, same thing, you don't use a lot. Just a little bit. You see it just start to drip, that's enough. Wheatgrass, buckwheat, and pea greens, you're not going to overwater. Sunflower, you just have to be careful how much you water them. Just especially in the winter months, water a lot less. When you see them dripping too much, they're going to get down on the ones that are covered, and that's when that top cover gets too wet and you start to get brown on the leaves. Okay, so sunflower, again, be really careful with watering. Anytime you see brown spots, it's watering too much. I'll show you kind of what the brown spot looks like real close up. That's a little bit of the brown spot right there. We don't have a lot of them because my employees really know how to water well. But that's the kind of brown spot on a leaf that you want to look for. I don't see a lot of them. And this really isn't even the best sunflower seed. Depending on the size of the seed will depend on the size of the thickness of the sunflower and the weight of the sunflower. So depending where you get your seeds from. The one I'm using now is a lot smaller of a seed, so we use a lot more trays, a lot more, maybe an extra tray or so every day that we put into the green juice here at Hippocrates, because the sunflower, the pea greens, cucumber, and celery go into our green juice, but you can put anything into a green juice. So sunflower, peas, cucumber, and celery, that's in our green juice here at Hippocrates. But you can put anything into a green juice, so spinach and kale and cabbage, great digestive enzyme in cabbage you can use in a green juice. Any kind of leafy green, alfalfa sprouts, broccoli sprouts, the leaves of beets, the leaves of carrots, any kind of leafy green. If you want to get creative with your green juice, a mint leaf. So grow some, what do they call them? Little chia pets, but they're the herb garden, the chia herb garden. So you can grow mint, cilantro, maybe there's a particular type of herb that you enjoy, and it's a green leaf. Put 1 or 2 of those leaves through that green juice, and that'll give you a nice little flavor for your green juice if you're kind of tired and bored of the same old, same old. Okay. This is the NutriFaster G160, and that's my cat. Okay, the NutriFaster makes the industrial stainless steel machines. I just want to show you what the G160 look like. It's the stainless steel. It has a restraining bolt, which I usually take off. You don't really need to have that end restraining bolt on it. And it comes with its built-in tray right onto the stem of the juicer. And it has bigger prongs to help you remove that back piece. It's a nice machine. It's going to run you about $1,300 retail, but that's a juicer that's going to last you forever. That's the one I would tell juice bars to get, health food stores, and it looks nice too.